was gonna go close the door. I'll be back.
Okay, are you hearing me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Somehow I muted your mic.
It's all good.
And do you have access to the chat?
I'm watching it live. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. And let's see. This is. Let's pop over here for just a second. So we'll go here. Yeah, there we go. This is my favorite pre-show comment. And sometimes this is a mid-show comment. Tom, there's no audio. Oh my gosh. We're back yet. Yeah, John, there are these little things in vMix called triggers. And triggers are kind of like a shortcut that you don't initiate, that one of your inputs initiated. So I have all sorts of shortcuts. Okay. For example, when this screen goes live in program, it turns my mic on. And that way I don't have to ever worry about being muted. But it's a toggle switch. If my mic was already on, I think I need to go back and check it. It turns my mic off. So I have to be careful about that.
Gotcha. So it does it regardless of your current status.
Whatever the state is, it changes the state. That's right.
Yeah.
And I need to make it not do that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Me and audio, we're not old friends.
I think your X keys could help you with that, couldn't it?
Oh yeah. I've got a wonderful
big, mic on button.
I've got a wonderful button right here.
They make those huge buttons that you could have like a go live,
That's my cough button. Turns my mic off.
Yeah, there you go.
And then back on again. Yeah. I love it.
That's awesome.
The problem with computers is they do what you tell them to do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's what we refer to as a layer 8 error, which is generally a user error.
Layer 8. That's a nice way to put it.
To the networking world, there are 7 layers in the network, and the 8th layer is you.
The 8th layer is you. Didn't know that. Now I'm
yeah. Somebody ever calls you a layer, or if they say it's a layer 8 issue, that's what they're referring to.
Aha. All right. Good. I'll use that on one of my networking buddies and see what they say.
Go. Yep.
All right, so we are live in pre-show. We've got just a few more minutes. I intentionally did not send you a list of questions or a subject.
Perfect.
Because I think, number one, you seem like the kind of guy that does just beautifully off the cuff. And
ooh, thank you. That's quite the compliment.
Well, it's true. And it probably, number one, it's probably your personality, but number two, you've polished it by having the show that you have on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with people with questions, so everything is off the cuff because you don't know what the question's going to be.
Yeah, we don't know what fire is burning today, so that's the whole point.
That's right. And so the idea is that we don't want to use up all the good spontaneous responses by talking about this in advance. Um,
Sure.
I want you to give me all your good stuff. All right, so Go
Well,
Web
and
Technology is saying there's too much gain on my mic and that John's audio is low. Yeah, I just boosted John a
oh,
minute
perfect.
ago by 5 decibels, so we're going to boost him by 3 more, and that'll make 8.
Um, that's the so for those of you who are watching a pre-show, there's an interview that I did at NAB with Tom, and I did the exact same thing to him, where I didn't really give him an idea as to what we were going to talk about, and we filled the hour quickly.
Oh yeah,
And
oh
then
yeah,
we reluctantly had to stop because I had other interviews coming up. But at the end of it, we both were like, "Well, that went fast."
yes,
So yeah, if you want to see that live in action after this show, go check out the BirdDog YouTube page and look for the interview between Tom Sinclair and us at NAB. But it's me and him, and we have a good chat.
yeah. That was that was a lot of fun, and that's always the sign I think of a good interview, a good guest, um, when it's
Yeah.
just like 5 minutes and it's over. It's like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
that wasn't nearly long enough. And
Yeah,
as
and
a
it happens
viewer,
pretty often where we get into things, right? And then we realize, oh, like I have other things I'm supposed to do today, but I'm 2 hours into this show.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Well, and it's good stuff. All right, Go Web.
Yeah.
Tell us how we're doing audio wise now before we get started officially with the show. Um, and PMX Productions has a question already. Hello from Chicago. Any update on when the BirdDog Play will ship?
So officially, I can't say much, just because they've changed their BirdDog has changed their tactics on how they release products. Because in the past, we were like, "Yep, it's coming out tomorrow," and
That's
then
right. Six
something
months
happens.
later. Yep.
So even things that you can't control, like manufacturing problems or the chip shortage, or they change the HDMI piece that you're using, you have to redesign the whole thing, which is actually one of the play. That's part of the play story, unfortunately.
Oh my
But
goodness.
anyways, yeah, I can say that we are gearing up the manufacturing side of things, which generally means that most everything's done. And so I would stay tuned over the next couple of weeks, let's say, as to when for like official announcements from BirdDog about when that's happening. And they'll do that on their major social media channels and on their website. But the easiest way is probably just Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is that you like to use. Look for BirdDog TV. That's usually their handle, and of course our logo, the green bird, and yeah, they'll launch those there. So officially, I can't say much, but I would say it's pretty close, really close. Matter of fact, we're testing some stuff right here, so that'll be pretty soon, I think.
Well, all right. All right. I have customers that have pre-ordered that, and periodically they'll
Yep.
check in with me and I'll check in with them, and they're just like, we don't care. We're not canceling our order. We were
Yep.
in early. We're going to get some of the first ones. So, yeah,
Yes,
that's the way it needs
if
to go.
they ordered early, they're definitely going to get one of the first manufacturing runs. I know that they're doing several thousand in the first two runs,
Okay.
um, and then those will be used to fill pre-orders. So anybody who has pre-ordered a play, you will get one of the first or second manufacturing run, which will be 2 weeks apart from each other.
Gotcha. Well, I think my customers will probably take the full first run.
Probably. there, there's a
Yeah,
lot
that's
there are a lot of play pre-orders.
okay. We have Martin K in the chat, which is DV2 Broadcast, and Martin is a former. Well, I guess you're never really a former audio engineer. Yeah, an audio engineer with BBC. If I've got that
Yeah.
right, Martin, correct me because I know I could be wrong. And Martin did the Jaws of Death opening for my show, which
Oh,
will run in
nice.
just a second, which was something that he had put together years ago and added some other things to it, and it's kind of eclectic and it kind of fits this show, I think, because it just you just never know what the show's going to be about.
Yeah.
All right, GoWeb says now levels seem fine, but a faded echo on John's audio. That's probably here in my studio. Let's
Yeah. Maybe.
let's mute the big monitor across the way.
I only hear it once, so we're good on this side, I hope. But
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see if that's better. We'll see if that's better. But Martin keeps me on the straight and narrow. Thank goodness.
That's good. It's good to have those people in your toolkit.
I think part of it is that, I call his name out, so he's like, oh gosh, he's called my name again. I have to make sure he looks halfway decent out there and sounds halfway decent if he's going to keep talking about me. All right.
Yep.
Oh, he said not the BBC, but the ITV, the other main channel.
Oh, gotcha.
In the UK.
Yep. ITV, we've done a lot of work with them recently. So, over the past, let's say 3 years.
And Rich Ignacio has showed up. Generally, he shows up about 5 minutes before the end of the show and says, did I miss anything? And Rich.
Yeah, I've got a few. Unfortunately, on my show, there's this running trend I've noticed where people will show up about 10 minutes before the show is supposed to end. Like, I kind of leave it open-ended, but it's supposed to end after an hour. And then they start asking really good questions. And then you think, well, how am I gonna bring this to a close if they're asking all these great questions? But anyways. So the last 3 shows have gone longer than an hour and a half, each of them. And that's okay. We don't mind. GoWeb is a contributor to all of that.
A lot of people say you shouldn't go longer than 10 or 15 minutes, 30 minutes max. And I think there is an audience for long form for hour plus.
I totally agree with you.
I really do. It may not be a huge audience, but it's a very highly interested and motivated audience. So
you give your audience a chance to kind of formulate the questions that have been brewing, or maybe they don't know. They need to ask until something triggers it in the chat, or you start talking about something and then it comes up. And so you kind of need to give people the ability to develop their own questions over some time. And if you're going 10 minutes and 50 minutes here and you're switching gears all the time, you're going to lose a lot of that like natural way that people think and walk through problems.
Sure. All right. So GoWeb says that the echo is gone. So it must have been the studio monitor.
Oh, fantastic.
That's good. And Dave Edwards is here. That he says, if content is compelling, length is not relevant. Ooh, a man of few words. Oh, geez.
So now Dave we have Edwards. To have content worth listening to. That's a different.
That really raises the bar, doesn't it? You can't just throw anything out there. It's got to be, now it's got to be compelling. Oh my gosh.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thanks, Dave.
Dave is he's one of my heroes, of course, and he's also a what's the right word? It'll come to me in just a minute. Dave is the one that took the vMix challenge back in 2017, I think it was, that said if anybody would show up to the vMix booth at NAB in a banana costume, they would be awarded a vMix Pro license. Ooh. And so Dave showed up to the vMix booth at NAB in a banana costume. It was wonderful.
Awesome.
Wonderful. I think banana is like the national fruit of Australia, of hospitality or something.
Oh, is it really?
I have no idea. I just made that up.
That's I thought it was Vegemite.
Vegemite, it might be.
Which is not an experience I wish for any of my North American friends to have, by the way.
Ah, okay. So it's an Australian thing.
It is. Yeah. Went to Australia earlier in the year a couple of months ago now. And they gave me like this jar of really large, for a trial, it was a really large jar of Vegemite. Well, anyways, I ate it on the stream. I still held my stream on Tuesday. And I ate it live on stream, and that was something else, man. That was not, that wasn't.
That's right. You will eat anything on the live stream, won't you? Once.
Almost. It's not an open license to ship me like anything, but there are a lot of things that I have tried on that stream, and that is to go back to Dave's point is attempting to fill an hour of content Sometimes there are no NDI questions. Everybody's just perfectly happy the way that things are. So we gotta figure out. So I start bringing my lunch. Well, then somebody shipped me a whole bunch of spicy food and peppers and candy and whatever. So it got a little out of hand there for a while.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we have rolled over the official starting time. So let's get this thing on the road officially.
Let's do it.
And I think we've got everything set here in the studio. I do have, I've got a P120 set up, John, that I'd like to kind of at least do a quick drive-by on.
Sure.
But other than that, you've got the whole time. All right.
Sounds good.
So let's go here, and then we will go here. All right. This is too cool. If you're watching this now, you've already seen the pre-show, so you know who the guest is. It's kind of like when the show starts, I'm supposed to pretend like the show has just started and you haven't seen anything that's happened in the pre-show. Because unlike some other subpar shows, we make the pre-show and the post-show available as part of the entire recorded version that's posted on YouTube. In fact, this is being live streamed to YouTube right now in lovely 4K. So if you have the capacity to watch in 4K and you want to, and it doesn't just make the mouths go like this, give it a try, because we've got a great BirdDog 4K camera. We've got vMix running 4K. We're live streaming at 4K P29 97. So it's good stuff. And the phone is ringing, and this is one of my favorite calls right here. They call all the time. It's like, okay, guys, let's get on with it. All right, so really excited about my guest today, and in fact, let's bring him in before we do anything else. Jon Knutson with BirdDog. Jon and I met in person for the very first time this past spring in Las Vegas at NAB. BirdDog had the world's smallest tech booth at NAB, and that part of that strategy was that they had like 1 million people in this booth, so you were just like elbow to elbow, and it just seemed like they were just really, really popular, which I thought was a great strategy because the attendance was way down, but their booth was really, really crowded all the time. So all the pictures were of this crowded booth. Wonderful thinking on that one, Jon. And Jon had a studio.
I wish I'd thought of it.
well, somebody obviously did. I thought it was a stroke of genius. All these other, large, expansive booths with nobody in them, and BirdDog is just crammed elbow to elbow. You couldn't walk through it.
Yeah, that may not have been the right tactic post-COVID, but anyways, we made it work, and
I think it wasn't.
We did meet a lot of people.
You guys were a super spreader.
I had a little recording booth there with that we shared there, Tom, and that was a tight squeeze. So
that was so much fun.
But it was good.
That was so much fun because they had a live streaming studio right there at NAB, a kind of a podcast studio. It took me half the interview to realize that there were cameras there, and I was supposed to be aware of these cameras. I wasn't aware of the cameras at all. So maybe it was just as well.
It's blended right in.
I'm a ham bone, and I'll play to the camera if you let me. Anyway, Jon is here in the U.S. I mean, this is his permanent domicile in the U.S., somewhere out in the Midwest, Michigan, maybe?
Yeah, over in Michigan, originally from Toronto, but I live in Michigan now with my wife and kids.
All right. Congratulations on the move. And you head up the North American BirdDog Tech Support Office. Is that safe to say?
I'm actually the head of global support now. Yeah.
Geez.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Global support. I would have had you on the show sooner.
Well,
But you were too busy
works, I guess.
globally supporting BirdDog. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's actually been that way forever because I was the original agent that they hired ages ago. It was about 3 years ago, and I came on. I was working out of one of the bedrooms in my house, and I called it an office, and that's when I started live streaming, and that's when I kind of came across your stream back in the day,
Yeah.
and then followed. It has evolved since then, and now we actually have ticketing agents, and we have a repair technician, and a bunch of things here in the U.S. But we handle a lot of the global things that go on just across the BirdDog fleet.
Sure. Sure. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's so smart on BirdDog's part. Because this is a huge market.
Yeah, yeah,
Huge
and
market.
we have a centralized location. Like we had agents in Australia, we had an agent in Europe,
Uh-huh.
and we're still trying to figure out some of that stuff because
Sure.
my team is, let's say my team is unique. Some of them are watching the show. My team is unique, and they are. I don't require them to, but they said they would. So,
Jake, you're
but
unique.
we
You know what that means.
yes, exactly. We have a good like office working environment, and so I have found that agent, really to be on my support team, you got to be in the office, and so that's what we're structuring things right now. We're going to have some agents that are covering other time zones that work other non-traditional hours in the
Sure.
U.S. so that we can cover those time zones. But I want them on my team. I want them in my office, and so that's the way we're approaching that. And those folks actually start. I have one new employee that starts on Monday, and then I have another employee that starts on November 1st. So the team is growing quick.
Oh, that's great. Now, are these people that have
Yeah.
bird dog background, or they have networking background, or
Yeah, some of them will have networking background. Quite honestly, there are very few people that have NDI experience in the market that are like in the support realm. But
uh-huh.
I can teach you that stuff, and I can even teach you the things that are required for the network stuff. What I can't teach you is your work ethic, and I can't teach you, to show up on time and all that sort of stuff. So we
Right.
really look for high quality people that are highly trainable and that have a passion to do what we do. I think I lucked out big time with the guys that I got on the first and second hiring run that I did. If you've ever submitted a ticket to the help desk, you've probably talked to Clay, and or on my show he goes by Senseless. That's his handle, and he's got an amazing personality, but that guy can just destroy tickets. Like he just goes through them so efficiently and fast, and maybe he works too many hours, but he's doing a really great job. And so he's actually now becoming kind of the lead of those ticketing agents, the guys that we're
Uh-huh.
hiring,
Uh-huh.
and he's going to do some training, but kind of bring them along and hopefully offload some of the workload. But he's picked it up really quick, and hopefully that will translate over to the new agents as well. So I'm really interested in who the people are and like where what their work ethic is and that sort of thing. And then we spend the time 6 to 8 months training people on all of the bird dog things and intricacies and all that. So yeah, we'll see. By next summer they should be up to speed.
No, they won't be, and I'll tell you why. Because Dan and Eamon will come up with 23 new products that they're going to release at NAB 2023. I mean,
uh you are not joking.
I am not joking. How many new products did they release at NAB 2022? Like 15
uh yeah, they had
hardware
13
and software?
announcements. They only had a couple of hardware, but they had about 13 announcements that they were coming out with.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, only 13. Only 13.
Yeah, that
Well,
was a doozy of a
and we
show.
happen to have one of them here in the studio today. How about that for a segue?
But yeah,
We
let's
have
talk about it.
we have actually we've got a whole shelf full of them, but we have a BirdDog P120 set up here in the studio today. And not only that, but the BirdDog P120 would like to share its attitudes because it has attitude. So let me bring that guy up here.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Ooh, so pretty. Love it. I've lost audio on you, Tom.
Let's try again. Here's the
There you go.
P120. He's saying grace at dinner. He's being reverent. And now the P120, he's kind of being a little aloof. He's pretending like you're really not there. Now he's shy. And now he is confident. He's going to look you straight in the eye. And
there you go.
That is the P120. Now, one of the neat things about the P120,
Check that audio input again there, Tom.
you notice right below the BirdDog's, that doggone triggers, there is a little screen. And that is amazing. Amazing. If ever you've dealt with NDI or any network camera, and you've said, okay, let's plug it in. What's the network address of this camera? Well, I can't go to the web interface because I don't know the network address. And I have to go find the network address. But, if I use, command prompt ARP-A, that gives me a list of everything on my network. But how do I know which one's the camera? I might use Bonjour browser, but that's a little buggy and sometimes it doesn't work quite right. But now, right here on the front of the camera, we have the IP address of the camera. Just so simple, but such a stroke of genius. Everybody's going to be doing it. Everybody's going to be doing it.
Yep.
So, hat tip to the guys at BirdDog for simple strokes of genius. Just really.
Yeah,
really.
we've discussed this in our product steering committees because there was a question at one time. Well, do we include the screen on this product? Do we not? Do we what? And I stood up in the meeting and said, we never release a product ever again without this screen.
Good. Exactly.
So if there is ever a product that does get released without the screen, play with the exception because we're going for cost effective there. Yeah, I wasn't involved.
Just know that it doesn't have the BirdDog Jon stamp of approval on it. That's right.
That's right. Support does not bless this product.
Well, and how much easier will it make it for you with the new guys? Because they don't have to go the whole 20-minute routine of discovering the IP address and helping somebody set up their network.
You're exactly right. That was one of the biggest pain points. Like back in the day, we'll go with the original here. So I've got a studio in the office.
Ooh.
And this thing was the one that started it all. It has since been end of life, but the studio had a little dot matrix screen on the front of it. When you powered it up, it told you what the IP address was that it acquired when it booted up. And I think we forgot the convenience of that. And continuing in that vein, we made the Mini. Well, the Mini didn't have an LCD screen. And the question was, when the Mini was running in decode, how do you find it? Like, if you don't know, it's a DHCP, which is, well, we can go down that path, but maybe I won't ruin your show with that conversation. But okay, so we're running a DHCP. We've got the Mini. We've set it to decode. We reboot the device. Now, how do we find it? Like, how do we find out what it is? Well, Tom's right. Really, the only way to do it was Bonjour browser. The only consistent way to do it was Bonjour browser. Now we have some tricks and support and whatever, but really from a customer standpoint, how do you find it? And so the camera line came out. P200 launched shortly thereafter. P100 came out right after that, and so on and so forth. And we kind of lost the convenience factor, especially for folks who are new to the IP world.
Right.
Like they don't know what. They don't know what all of this network jargon is, and so they just need a little help.
Well,
and,
Jon,
Bonjour browser is actually
it's not people that are new to the IP world. It's people that are new in my world to the live streaming world, and they're new to cameras, and they're new to PTZ cameras, and they're new to NDI PTZ cameras. I mean, it's just like it becomes this crushing mountain of knowledge that they have to gain in order to be successful.
Correct.
And that teeny little screen.
Yeah, and where are they going to acquire that? You know, like there's a course that New Tech offers. It's a great course. Kane teaches it. But like, unless you have an integrator, you know, unless you know Tom or you know somebody that's had some experience and you're doing it on your own, what we find is folks purchase a product from online. They'll get it from B&H or something, which is great.
Right.
But then they get it and they unbox it, they plug it in. They have no idea what.
Now what?
Okay, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna do something about that lack of education piece with BirdDog. That hopefully will be on the horizon earlier next year. I can't give specifics, but I am directly involved in that.
Let me give you one piece of advice on that. One piece of
Absolutely.
advice. Be consistent.
Mm.
I can't tell you how many manufacturers I've worked with over the last 10 years that, you know, they'll have this big push. Yeah, we're going to put out tutorial videos. And you look back, you know, 5 years later and you see that they did it for 6 months and then they never did it again. And yeah, it wasn't reliable. And it tells me the company's not reliable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you wholeheartedly there, just because like part of my concern with the NDI stuff is that the information's not available, but it's also not like commonly updated. So you know, if you've been to the knowledge database for BirdDog, you've seen probably me on tutorial videos or CJ or Jake or someone like that talking through how to set things up and get things running. And those videos are fine. You know, I have a guy that watches the knowledge database and tries to make sure that everything is relevant, and that's fine. And we'll redo videos if they're not. But as things move along, and here's a great example of NDI 5 has been introduced, especially with the 110s and 120s. NDI 5 is now kind of the standard firmware that we're using, and there's not a whole lot on like, here's every button and bell and whistle that's in this web UI. So that's kind of the idea, is we need to probably get an education division online where when you buy a BirdDog camera, you can scan a QR code or you can get a coupon code or something like that and go in and actually learn as much as you possibly want. And the goal, we'll see how it kind of evolves. We're in the planning stages right now, but the goal is to be sure that when you buy a BirdDog product, you know, you can't say that you don't know, because the option there to learn is available.
Right. And too many of these products have the public impression that, oh, all you have to do is buy it and plug it in, and all your problems are solved. And I can't tell you how many calls I get on a weekly basis of people that have bought gear and they've plugged it all in. And they're like, okay, what now? How do we make all these piece parts work together? Or somebody
Correct.
that called me the other day that has had a system operating for 2 years. 2 years. And there's a vMix system that they put together themselves. And they didn't learn about vMix presets. So every time they go to do a show, they build it from scratch.
Ooh.
So they've been doing that for 2 years. And they're like, oh,
that's a lot of work.
Save this? Oh, yeah. For them, it was just earth shattering. Made their day. So it was nice to be a hero on that one, but you know, but they were
those softballs, they're nice sometimes, right? You get the you get the easy question and you look like you got it all together.
That's right. Doggone, that's my favorite kind. My favorite kind. Well, let me give a shout out to Michael and Tommy.
Hey, Michael, how are you, man?
And who else did I see? I saw Bill and Aziz.
Well, we got to give a special shout out to Sanaya, who is GoWeb's daughter. She's on my show sometimes. So
okay, all right, that makes
she
sense.
says hello.
Michael is also one of these ones that kind of keeps us on the straight and narrow in terms of you know, terms that I'll throw out very loosely, and he'll say, "Well, it's not exactly like that."
Yep.
I always appreciate that. So, all right, here's a question.
Michael is my DHCP advocate.
Yes, absolutely, and everyone should be. even if you don't know what it is, Tommy. But
Agreed.
when the BirdDog guys are scratching on the back of an old envelope for their next mega project,
Yeah.
do they like send that envelope to you and say, John, what do you think about this?
They absolutely do not. Because they know from a support angle I'm gonna rip it apart, and so they don't like talking to me about being inventive. I'm way too one side of the brain, and they need like creative people. But when they get it mostly developed, then they say, okay, now tell us what needs to change so that it's like accessible for customers. And they do approach me then.
Okay.
They just don't at the initial stages. They don't traditionally involve me, and I don't blame them. They probably
they're
shouldn't.
not looking to get crushed that soon. Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. No, once they get it mostly done, then I can give them some ideas as to how to make it a little bit more customer friendly, and we get it to market that way.
So what's your favorite idea that you've been able to put into the pot for one of the new products or one of the revamped products?
Well, honestly, they're doing a lot in the development side. They're playing with a lot of ideas from just that have come out of pandemic. I mean, I won't be able to speak specifically about product ideas that they're having.
Oh, it's okay.
But
it's okay.
Yeah, but because I'll get into a lot of, not all of your audience is not under NFA, so we can't, or NDA, so we can't do that.
All right,
but
everybody lift your right hand and promise
that's right.
never to.
We're going to email you a PDF, which you'll have to sign.
That's right.
Please email Tom at. No, so we do like, and here's the thing about NDI is like, once you get it up and running, it really does change a lot about the way that we deliver video. And so you can, once you get the data into ones and zeros, it gives you a lot of flexibility. And people say, well, we're going to trade off, on the latency, or we're going to have to encode things, or we're going to, there's a compromise. Quite frankly, and I can only speak for full NDI because that's what BirdDog does. But the beautiful thing is that NDI, if you're willing to compromise with the frame latency it takes for the camera to get it, into NDI, it actually gives you a lot more flexibility with where we send the actual video around the world or across the office or however we want to do that. And so I love the fact that we're getting to the place where the development of NDI is so good that most of the time the single frame encode is not really the issue. And now we're talking about how do we do production in the cloud, where vMix is now can be hosted in an AWAF service, or people are doing full productions up in the cloud. In particular, people using programs like Blackmagic Resolve, which we don't say those words too often, but I've personally used Resolve a fair bit and have been pretty happy with its ability to cut video. And well, first of all, it's free, so we're talking about DaVinci 18, but you're able to actually do most of the stuff that Final Cut and whatever does, and now we can take that into BirdDog Cloud and do a remote production, and we're cutting down on transportation costs and production costs, and you get higher value for a lot less. And so NDI, now that we're able to take that video and get it into ones and zeros, now the flexibility becomes almost endless, and it gives you the opportunities to, like my whole studio is NDI. Obviously, if it wasn't, you shouldn't watch my show. So everything comes in over the NDI channel, and that's the way that I do it. Well, I'm sending this over to Tom in a vMix call. But everything that I have and all of my camera angles, which I can jump around to and, switch through, and all of it instantly, and I'm running multiple cameras, get it into the network. And now it gives us an incredible amount of flexibility. So really the pieces then that we focus on are customer accessibility, at least from a support standpoint, customer accessibility. How do we make this even easier for people to onboard and use our products? And actually, I'm not responsible for the LCD screen, but I might be responsible for the ones that appear in future products, because I flew down to Melbourne, like I mentioned earlier, and I was able to basically say that screen has reduced the level of support requests that we get just for lost devices, but has also made the IP language a lot more accessible for customers. And so, like Tom was saying, it's not just people that don't know anything about networks, it's people that don't know anything about that are just getting into streaming to begin with, and they need help. They need help getting started so that they understand how things get from point A to point B. So accessibility, making sure that the unboxing is, an easy situation. And then if we need to troubleshoot, the information is readily available. So that's my focus. My focus is, how does the customer unbox this product and interact with it the easiest way possible?
Well, speaking of unboxing, I will compliment you
Oh,
guys on the new packing, at least in the P120,
yep.
which is a lovely little cardboard thing with handles that comes out and separates easily. And there's the camera, unlike the P200, which requires a forklift and a crane to rip it from its foam container.
It's true.
I finally figured out the way to unbox a P200 is to flip it upside down and pull the box off.
Yep.
And then you can separate the foam.
Well,
Otherwise,
then you can take the bottom foam off and then hold the
yes.
big one with your feet and extract the droid
Yeah,
that way.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's
Well, we had a hook put on the ceiling just for unboxing P200s. So, yeah. But
yeah, that's about right.
and I had the customer experience this morning when I opened this P120. Is I opened it, and at the very top there was a little envelope that said something like "Welcome to the BirdDog family," and I
Yep.
thought, Shh, you got it, you got it. And then I hit the double handle, and I didn't have to fight to get the camera out. I was like, I really do feel like a part of the family, not a stepson.
Yep. The whole focus
This
is
is
to get
good.
the product as quickly as possible into the hands of the customer, mostly because we announced that back in NAB, and so people had been waiting a few months for that camera. But
Yes.
that little welcome packet and everything, that is all the brainchild of Eamon Drew, who, if you don't know who that is, you need to come by the BirdDog booth at NAB next year and shake Eamon's hand, because
The
he's
only
a guy worth
redhead in the
knowing.
booth.
He's the only redhead, but he's one of the founders, and he's specifically taken very, let's say, substantial amounts of time to make sure that you definitely feel like you're a part of that BirdDog family. So that's a shout out to him.
Well, that's no lie. And that happens at multiple levels. My
Hmm.
son Jordan was working in Thailand for a year. He was teaching English and did a
Yep.
brief holiday over in Australia. And I just happened to mention that somewhere. And Eamon sent me a note and said, "Where's he going to be?" And I said, he's going to be in Melbourne or whatever it was. And he said, "Send me his
Yep.
contact information. I want to take him out and show him a good time." And so,
Oh, cool.
he picks up Jordan and they go out to a soccer match or something like that and have a blast. And, Jordan is literally on the other side of the world. And here, Eamon is looking after my kid. Kid,
Yep.
he was 28 years old, but still, um, you know, and, and he has cemented himself into the lore of our family with that one forever.
Yeah.
And just, that's just one little nugget. Anyway. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get
he's
that.
he's a good
That's
guy to
his
know,
type.
and I will attest that he does go kind of above and beyond, almost to a fault. Not that he'll be able to take out every customer who's in town, but definitely if you let him know, he'll make a point to shake your hand. The easiest way is come to NAB, see him here, see
Yes.
him there. We're always there, and the
Yes.
owners are always there, and that's when we really get to. Although he's very popular at NAB, so
I
you
bet
might
he
get to
is.
see him.
He's popular all over the world. Holy cow.
Yes,
Gee whiz.
yeah, a lot of people know Eamon.
All right, so let's see. So I want to throw this out to you. My premise
Okay.
is that BirdDog is a substantial part of the NDI success. That if it wasn't for BirdDog, that NDI wouldn't be as widely accepted as it is, wouldn't have as many follow along products, because BirdDog proved the case. BirdDog went out there first with the studio TV, the little device you were showing just a few minutes ago,
Yep.
and then all the other products that followed, and made the case that, yes, this is technology that it's rock solid. It's worth investing it in. It is the future. And then everybody started doing it once BirdDog did it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then NDIHX rolled out, which made it even easier for people to do it because you could get a license to that.
Right.
Do you agree with that? Did BirdDog
Yeah, I
help the global acceptance of
like
NDI?
all young companies, yeah, like all young companies, the NDI stuff, it has to start somewhere. And the original story goes back to where Dan and Eamon are listening to Dr. Cross, who former president of New Tech NDI, and he's announcing this protocol. And Dan and Eamon are sitting there in this conference, and I think Eamon leans over to Dan, he's an inventor at heart, like that's what he does in his dreams. And so Eamon leans over and says, we've got to do something about, like, we've got to get in on this. And out came the studio. That was the original idea. It's basically NDI being encoded or decoded on an FPGA chip, silicone chip, which is why they can do it as fast as they can, but it's why it also requires the amount of data that it requires. And so, that studio came out and made it a real deal. A lot of people pre-ordered and were a part of that, like, original manufacturing run, that if you actually invent this thing, we want the first one. And like all Kickstarters, or maybe not Kickstarters, but like all young companies, there have been some huge learning, times of learning in the company in terms of,
Sure.
oh, this is how this is really should work, or this is what the industry really expects. And we really cut our teeth on Studio and Mini, and that's right where I kind of came in. I came in just after, like, Mini had been on the market for 6 months or something like that.
Wow.
And then, yeah, P200 came online shortly. Actually, we were showcasing it at NAB, I believe, that year, along with the 4K line, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, it all runs together at this point. But anyways, but the 4K line was being announced, and P200 had been out then, I guess. But yeah, it was really new, and the whole idea was you can install a firmware update on a camera and get HX. But if you're serious about NDI and latency is a part of the conversation, then the way to do it is full NDI. And for a long time, we were the only ones that were. So BirdDog kind of became a bit of a standard if you were seriously considering NDI as a workflow. And then right before, in 2019, right before pandemic, in October, we launched Cloud. And then March of the following year, basically, pandemic began. And that propelled NDI into a different stratosphere. Matter of fact, I've recently been watching, thanks to my channel, I've been recently watching Office Hours, which is a pretty popular, program that talks about streaming. And one of the guys on there, NDI came up, and the guy said, prior to pandemic, I had no interest in NDI. It wasn't even like on my radar or whatever. He said 2 months into pandemic, I was dabbling in the pro versions of NDI because I realized this is how we're going to continue to do business. And to hear those guys who talk about everything, like that's NDI comes up every other show now. And
Sure.
and I'm kind of like just watching in the background, I watch the shows when I can. They even did a comm show the other day where somebody asked, what about BirdDog comms? And nobody had any experience. And I was like, I wish I had the ability to jump in. But yeah, that's really amazing to listen to the market and them to legitimately talk about NDI and like it is a workflow. It's a way that you do business now. And there are lots of people that do NDI, but there are like a handful of serious, NDI players, and BirdDog, I think, is right up there with the best of them.
I would agree. And a lot of my customers, because I see myself, John, as sort of serving the entry level folks, the people
Yeah.
that just don't know. We might say they're dumber than dirt, but they're not dumb. They're just ignorant, and that's different. They just don't
Yeah.
know yet. But once they know, they're get out of the way. And we're
Yeah.
setting them up to use NDI from the very beginning. We're giving, do you want to run three cables to your camera, or do you want to run one?
Right.
There's the choice. Oh, okay, well, good. Yeah. You want to have access to these cameras remotely? You want to be able to have the same latency that you would with a cable? Yeah. Okay, let's go. And so they're
Yeah.
coming in at the very first experience with NDI being what they're introduced to. Wasn't that way 5 years ago?
No.
Really,
And
really exciting
there's
for
still
me.
some folks back there, like some major installers in the US who IMAG is, that's how they make their money.
Sure.
And so they're not willing to talk about latency, which is unfortunate, because if you can do the 2 frames latency, or at least 1 frame with BirdDog, and then whatever you're willing to compromise on the other side, depending on how you're decoding it. But like, if you're willing to, now we're talking about that you can manipulate and send that data anywhere you want.
Right.
And it's not just based on where your BNC cables are run. And so guys are opting for more expensive BNC installations, but I think they're missing out on the massive flexibility that NDI brings. And, again, another 5 years, you're going to want that data to be flexible in that way, where you can send it off and get it to multiple campuses all within, 100 millisecond round time or something like that over cloud. Like,
Right.
to ignore it just because today this is the way we do things is you're going to be redoing the system again when NDI continues to grow.
And the client will search for another provider that gives them a better solution. Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Great.
Shout out to Otis, who's out in
Hey, Otis.
Houston, where it's hot. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, just about. It's we know it's going to be hot and muggy in Houston. So there.
All the time.
Well, we got some questions here, John, that we need to go back through in post show. So let's wrap
Sure.
up the show, and we'll go to post show and handle some of these questions. So
Sounds good.
you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And I hit the wrong button. I love it. Hold on. Let me hit
Happens
the
to the
right
best
button
of
this
us.
time. That's the right button. There we go. That was the close.
Just proves that you're mortal, Tom. That's all that means.
Oh, John, there has never been a time on this show when I haven't been mortal. Believe me. Yeah.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Let's see. What do we do here? We're trying to do something. There we go. 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 All right. So, GoWeb says audio is fine this time. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Yeah, Tommy Willis asked. I did a show about probably 5 years ago, entitled "The Golden Age of Live Streaming," and my premise was that we are in the golden age of live streaming. And Tommy's asking, with everything advancing every day, are we still in the golden age of live streaming? And Tommy, I think we are. I don't know, John. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't see it slowing down, especially with cameras glasses getting better. encode is getting faster, more accessible. A lot of like stuff over USB ports now. We're bringing it in, like the fact that you can bring in a Sony sensor with a 110 or 120 over a USB port and have that as your webcam. I mean, things are becoming, as things do, right? Like they become more affordable as technology, as it progresses, then it becomes more affordable, or you get a better device for the same price. You know, here's looking at you 240. So it continues to get better, but the expense stays the same. And so for the client, it's becoming more and more accessible, or better stuff is becoming more and more accessible all the time. So I don't see it really slowing down. Yeah, it's gotta, you know, I don't see it yet. And knowing what the guys are talking about as to like what's next, it's not slowing down at BirdDog. I'll put it that way.
The premise that I was working with was the automobile industry. As it started out, at one point there were 300 manufacturers of automobiles in the U.S. Did you know that?
Yep.
And there was this tremendous consolidation, with companies going out of business, companies buying other companies. You ended up with General Motors that had at one point, I think, 22 different flags in their in their corporation. And we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen that consolidation yet. BirdDog hasn't been purchased by anybody, nor, to my knowledge, have you guys purchased anybody.
Nope.
Killaview, Magewell, some of those other people out there that are doing similar kinds of things are still doing them. Nobody's gobbled them up yet.
Yeah, the one that did get purchased was NewTek, which I thought was interesting because VizRT merged with them. I don't know. I get, maybe that's not the right term. When they announced that, I thought, oh, like, how's that going to change the development of the protocol? But it hasn't slowed down. So,
No, but the president of NewTek left.
So, yeah, the president of NewTek left. However, so like one of the main inventors of the protocol, let's put it that way. However, I know some of the guys that are on the development side of the NDI protocol, and it's not slowing down.
They're still
just
there.
From briefly listening to some of the guys that are in charge of that. There's going to be some. I think next year NAB there'll probably be some additional announcements that will turn some heads. So no guarantees. I'm not an employee, but just from my brief conversations, what they mentioned, I was like, oh, okay. Like, there's some stuff coming.
Jim has just shown up, and he wants to know if there's any.
You were saying?
Yeah. Hamilton County Television wants to know if there's any news on the BirdDog NDI play. So, Jim.
Okay. So
you show up late.
Yeah, officially that.
You miss this stuff. What can I say?
If you come late. Officially, so yeah, it's called BirdDog Play. I always have to, like, when things like this come up, I always want to be sure, like, we're talking about the same thing, because people used to call it
He's one of my early back order customers.
Yeah, the studio they used to call the studio something, and then there was another one that they were calling by the wrong name, and I was like, are they talking about? Anyways, in this instance, the BirdDog Play is, I know for what I can say is that it is in manufacturing, and there's actually a whole bunch that were already manufactured, but they had worked on firmware and what have you, and so they're kind of tidying that up. And I have the beta firmware of that for the Play units that I have here for support, and so those units are here, and we're kind of finishing things up. So stay tuned to the socials in the next couple of weeks for announcements about the progress of Play. You should be seeing stuff soon about that.
So when BirdDog says weeks, at least this is the way it should be, John. I'm gonna tease you here. When BirdDog says weeks, and this is October, guaranteed we'll see it by NAB.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. NAB no later than IBC. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I don't like the excuse, but it is kind of valid where inventing things is really hard. Like it's really hard. Like almost impossible. Like think about like guys like Elon Musk. He like invented an electric car, which is impossible, and then created a system to charge the car across the United States. That's pretty much impossible. And then he makes a spaceship and he puts the car on top of it. That's impossible. And then he launches it into space, into orbit, which is like mind blowing. So like inventing things, he's an inventor. That's what he does. Well, I won't say Dan is like Elon, but I will say that doing the reason why you don't see many full NDI devices on the market is because it requires you to design your own silicone and then to basically develop it yourself.
Right.
And so it's easier, not easy, but it's easier to do the HX protocol on an already established device.
Sure.
But if you can do the full NDI stuff, that's right. Then the quality of the product that you get out of a full NDI, like if you just put the two devices together, it'll be pretty obvious which one's full and which one's not. So, yeah, inventing things is hard. It's a terrible excuse, and it's people don't like to. But it is true, and it will be out before NAB next year. That's for sure.
I'll go even further than that. Say it'll be out before NAB the following year.
Absolutely. That's even a safer bet.
That's 100% bet. Okay.
Well,
Michael
look at the website too, at the laundry list of things that Play is going to try and do. And people say things like, yeah, why would I get a Flex over a Play if the Play is so much less expensive? Well, there will be some compromises. Like the Play is an ARM process, which was enabled in the NDI5 SDK. And so the developers are now able to use ARM processes to decode NDI, which is pretty significant if you know anything about like Raspberry Pis and what have you. And so we're trying to design it to where you have a complete package. It's a BirdDog product. You know the quality that you're going to get, and it's really a very simple to use. Throw it on the back of the TV. It has a little magnetic base. Throw it on the back of the TV and plug it in, and off you go. Plug it in with USB for power and Ethernet for your NDI. Why you would pick a Flex? Well, Flex is full NDI FPGA decode. And so if latency is a requirement for you, then Flex is obviously going to outmatch the Play because it's got a much stronger chip inside. And it's PoE and all that fun stuff that BirdDog's used to.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Michael Graves said that there's been a ton of consolidation in broadcast vendors.
Mm-hmm.
And what that tells me is that broadcast is dying in a way. Not dying, maybe yet dying, but, approaching that middle age point where you no longer go and work out at the gym for 4 hours a day. It's
yeah.
Broadcast
there's an interesting conversation that's way too long for the post show, but there's an interesting conversation to be had about the future of traditional broadcast media, because so much is consumed by guys who set up a studio like you and me and produce it, and like our views are not in the hundreds of thousands, but if you're looking for chat about NDI, like there's a show for that, and
Sure.
So it's becoming where you can Google search for our shows and find it and subscribe to it, and that's the content you want to consume. There's like something for everybody. Whereas mainstream broadcast, where it's like we've got to hit as many people as possible to get the views and to keep interest, and so it ends up being like more about negative news, just the way that our brains are wired, and it ends up being very broad, like broad strokes, and that's not what people are interested in. It goes back to your conversation about long form content. It's like if the topic is correct, and Tom, was it Tom? he's absolutely right where he says if the content is correct, it doesn't matter how long it
That
goes.
was Dave. Yeah.
And oh, Dave, I'm sorry. And that is, it's so true. If you can produce the content that a large portion of people want to watch, it doesn't have to be one view or another, one political view or another. It doesn't have to be, whatever. If you've hit the right market, then people will watch it, and they'll watch it for a while. And I've discovered that long ago when I first started my show, I ran it for 3 hours twice a week, and that was a doozy. Mostly because there wasn't enough content or people to keep that going. But now I've set it for an hour, and I regularly go past that just because there's too much to talk about. There's too many things that people want to cover, and the interactive idea of what we do is very engaging, and so it's good stuff.
But from a broadcast standpoint, I can give you anecdotes all day, which really don't tell you the shift of the market. They just tell you what happens when my phone rings. But I got a call from a local TV station that wants some help with live streaming, and they're basically going to set up their weather studio as a 24/7 live stream, and they're going to have somebody manning it live. At least that's their thought. Maybe not 24/7, but a lot of the viewing day, so that people can go online anytime and get a weather report, local weather. I mean, pinned to this area. I thought that was, that's exactly what's happening in the live streaming world, is that the audience is narrowed down to specifically what it is you want. And now the broadcast folks are saying, okay, what tools do we have that would fit into these narrow niches? And I think we're going to see them do the same thing with sports, that they're going to end up with long form sports broadcasts, and, probably, what would we call it? More focused sports broadcasts where they may say, okay, we'll do a local lacrosse game because we can get an audience with that. We'll do a girls softball game because we can do an audience with that. And I think 10 years from now, the local broadcast TV station is going to look very, very different. It's going to be much more diverse and is going to be doing multiple broadcasts per day, more like what I see as at least 10 years ago, a traditional radio station, which would be a building that would have 10 stations operating out of it. And 5 of them would be AM, 5 of them would be FM, and one would be country, one would be rock, one would be oldies, that kind of thing. And I see that model kind of shifting down too. It's going to be exciting to see.
I know of a bunch of places that have set up office buildings which are just all studios. They're all run NDI. They've all got usually TriCasters in each of them, but they're using NDI groups, and they're blocking them off, and they just rent those out for people who want to stream or create professional content, and they just bill by the hour.
Yep. Great idea.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Great idea. Yeah, our buddy Scott Whitney from Podworks Studio, you remember he was the host of the Streaming Idiots meetup in Las Vegas at NAB. He was on a show yesterday, I think sponsored by Speedify. You can find it on YouTube. And he was talking about that exact same thing. Yep. That was, he was talking about what his company had done and the kinds of things they were doing. And, you can rent his studio. And it's not just a plain Jane studio either. You remember that place? It was just
it had all sorts of options, where it's whatever you want to produce, we can pretty much do it.
Yep. All right, let's see if there's anything else important out there that we've missed.
Sure.
Michael Graves doesn't want to talk about NDIHX. That's all right.
Well, we do talk about it, but whether or not it's in a favorable light. No, I'm kidding. It's a flavor. That's, it has its place.
When I was having the audio issues, Dave says it's not the trigger, it's the loose nut behind them. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Always know it's always good to know I can count on you, Dave.
Yeah. Got trustworthy friends.
That's
just gonna
right.
adjust my mic
That's
here.
right. No, there's nobody else that's saying anything important. Oh, well. No, I'm just teasing. It's good. It's good. Oh, and Rich wants to know. Oh, no. Sorry, that's. Am I on the wrong side? Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right. All right. So you've got a show tomorrow.
Yeah. So we do a show twice a week.
11?
Yeah, it starts at 11 Eastern. It's a little bit late for the Australians, a little bit, and a lot late for the Australians, and kind of late for the Europeans. But we try and run an hour or so, and it's a good chance because we don't have a phone service. This is one of the pieces people. I want to call you. I want to call you. It's like, well, I don't have the bandwidth to handle phones right now, but I am live twice a week. And if you hate submitting tickets, then meet me online and just ask me your question there in front of a bunch of people and see what I do. So that turns into a bit of a game.
Well, if you ever want to set your studio up to take phone calls, I'll show you how to do it.
Well, that's partially starting.
You can plug your cell phone directly into your mixer.
Yeah, cell phones, no. I have no interest in having something attached to my hip where that comes in. But
no.
We might end up going.
You take the call on a landline, and then you call them back from the cell phone.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You route it through.
Yeah.
There's, again, big, long conversation about what's the best method to help, and phones are the quickest, but I think they're the least efficient. Whereas, email is very impersonal. But, it's like, you want to call me because your DHCP server is like malfunctioning. It's like, well, how do I walk you through how to do that? Talk you through how to set that up. But, email is very impersonal, and I get that too. However, we can give you tons of PDFs and resources and links and all that in email. So, there's got to be a happy medium somewhere between the two. I don't know what that is yet, but we're figuring that out as we go along, as is everybody else.
There you go, right there.
Michael can provide telephone integration.
He can hook you up. There you go.
That's great. That's good to know. Michael is quite the jack of all trades.
He really is.
Hopefully.
He really is.
Hopefully not a master of none, but.
Well, that happens to the best of us.
Yes.
Well, look, dude, I'm going to let you go back and handle a few hundred more tickets today.
Sounds good.
Get those guys in shape.
I really appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me on.
It's been my pleasure. My pleasure. Folks, thank you for tuning in today. And Jon is the guy. So when you set a ticket on your BirdDog device through their website, it is very possibly going to cross his desk. Yeah.
Very possible.
Very possible.
My team is getting really robust, so I don't see everyone anymore. But the ones that are really, head scratchers, I take a look at.
The hairy ones. The ones that nobody else can figure out. That's right. Oh, yeah. You get
some
all
of them,
the good problems.
If you're extra special, if you're Tom and you submit a ticket, it goes directly to my inbox. But, that takes a little bit of prestige to get to that level.
Oh, boy, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, it's like, all right, what has this idiot done now? Let's hurry up and fix it before he says anything stupid.
Not helpful that you call yourself a streaming idiot, because that also, that also doesn't play in your favor necessarily, unless you know what it is that you're referring to. Then it makes sense.
Jon, I learned a long time ago to set the standard really low of expectations.
Yeah.
You can always exceed
those expectations by
That's
setting
right.
low expectations.
Low bar.
Yes, sir.
I can hop across that one. Yeah.
We should do another show where you troubleshoot my vMix system, because I'm new to vMix. For those of you who don't know who I am, new to vMix. I never thought I would be into vMix, but evidently Tom has converted me over somehow, and so now I have questions, and you and I should do a show on if Tom will fix Jon's vMix system. Actually, in particular, and if anybody wants to show up tomorrow and tell me how to do this, in particular, it's about integrating GPUs so that vMix will, encode over on a GPU. So
piece of cake.
Lots of things to learn. Well, I did it. I hooked it all up, but it seems to be worse. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. We'll
I followed the directions
have another
and I
chat about
burned
that
it.
another time. That's right.
All right. Good. Anytime. My favorite subject.
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, I look forward to it. We can have a case study one day.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Hat tip to Jon, and we'll